The schoolyard was silent. Smoke curled from charred swings. Half-melted toys lay among scorched bones. A crayon, red, still intact, rested beside the remains of a child whose tiny hand was fused into the metal desk beneath her. Commander Arlen Raithe didn't blink as the footage played on the holoscreen. He sat motionless in the dark room, arms crossed, shadows cutting across the long scar on his jaw. Behind him, the Strategic Operations Center hummed quietly. No one else was allowed in here. Not for this. He watched the scene again. And again. He stopped only when a soft mechanical voice cut in. They didn't suffer long. Arlen turned slightly. General Nyla Caro stood by the door, hands clasped behind her back. She wore the crisp black uniform of Terran High Command, though her eyes betrayed more wear than rank. "That's not true," Arlen replied flatly. Caro exhaled through her nose. "No," she admitted. "It's not." They stood in silence. Then she slid a thin data chip across the table. "This is Ashfall." He glanced at it but didn't move. "A black operation. Denied, disavowed, and absolutely illegal under the Dominion Charter. We buried it years ago. But after Varelia, well, someone in the Outer Rim wants results, not tribunals." Arlen finally picked up the chip. "Why me?" Caro looked directly at him. "Because you won't flinch." He tucked the chip into his coat without a word. The shuttle hangar beneath Titan Station was cavernous, cold, and mostly empty, perfect for operations no one was supposed to know about. Arlen stood at the base of a drop ramp, eyeing the figures approaching him. 7 in total. He didn't greet them. They came in silence, one by one, like ghosts with weapons. First was Mara Tear, demolitions expert, discharged for disobeying a retreat order, because she stayed to extract wounded civilians. Her jaw had been rebuilt after the bombing. She rarely spoke. Then Corbin Val, ex-Spec Ops sniper. Dishonorably discharged. Too many kills during peacekeeping ops, some of them children. No remorse. Arlen kept him close, but never behind. Lieutenant Harlan Ricks, cyber warfare. Pale, augmented, emotionally detached, and twitchy as hell. His implants hummed softly even when he stood still. The others were lesser known, black market technicians, ex-pirates, or rogue AI engineer. Then she arrived. The Thari. Senna Vec. She walked upright like a human, but her stride had a fluid elegance only her kind could manage. Silver eyes, vertical pupils, armor etched with Thari sigils, now defaced and crossed out. Her presence made every other operative twitch. Arlen didn't blame them. "What is that doing here?" Corbin growled, his hand already near his holster. "She's your sensor cloaker, biometric bypass, and translator. You'll need her to land on Cathara Prime," Arlen said without turning. Senna didn't flinch at the hostility. She looked at Arlen. "I know what I am. I know what they did. And yet you're here," Mara said coldly. "To help you finish it." Arlen stepped forward. "You all know why we're here. You were chosen not because you're loyal. Not because you're good. You were chosen because you don't ask the kind of questions that delay payloads." He activated the holoprojector. The image that flickered above them showed Cathara Prime, lush, green, beautiful. The kind of planet the Dominion would never nuke officially. "We breach orbit. Insert silently. Navigate to coordinates 675. The heart of their biosphere matrix. That's where we plant the payload. Once it's in, we vanish." Mara glanced at the data. "This isn't just a strike, sir. This thing'll collapse their climate cycle. Turn the air toxic." "That's the point," Arlen replied. "It'll kill civilians. Unarmed families. Children." Her voice was calm, but firm. Arlen looked at her. "You want a line?" "I don't have one anymore." Silence followed. Corbin nodded approvingly. "Good. About time someone stopped playing clean." Senna stepped closer. You don't have to erase us. Arlen turned to her. You think this is about hate, he said. It's about permanence. You burned our children alive. Not in battle. In classrooms. He paused, voice ice. You killed our future. So we're killing yours. Hours later, in the crew quarters, Arlen sat alone. The lights were dimmed. He held something small in his hand, a melted ID badge. The name was barely legible, Lyra Raithe. His daughter. She was 6. In his mind, he saw her again. Running down the halls of Varelia Elementary. Crayons in hand. Drawing stars. She wanted to be a ship designer. He had promised to pick her up that day. He was 5 minutes late. Sir, Harlan's voice buzzed over the intercom. We're prepped. Clock's ticking. Arlen closed his hand over the badge and stood. On my way. In the launch bay, the team assembled around the stealth transport, the Wraithfall. Senna input the Thari genetic cipher into the NAV system. Harlan bypassed Dominion trace tags. Corbin checked his rifle with almost loving attention. Arlen stood at the ramp, looking at each of them. Once we go dark, we stay dark. No comms. No tracking. No turning back. He looked toward the black void beyond the hangar shield. They think we're afraid to get dirty. They're wrong. The ramp rose behind him. And the Wraithfall vanished into space. Kathara Prime shimmered below them like a jewel dipped in acid. Emerald jungles stretched across its equator, clouds swirled with unnatural elegance, and the cities, massive, organic structures fused with bioluminescent coral, glowed beneath a translucent ozone shell. A utopia, if you didn't know better. Inside the Wraithfall, silence had weight. Arlen sat at the command interface, staring down at the target site on the hologrid. His fingers hovered over the final trajectory commands. The payload, codenamed Eclipse, was prepped, its core armed. One command away from irreversibility. We'll need to drop from high orbit. 30 seconds, max atmospheric burn, Harlan murmured. Any sign they've detected us? Arlen asked. No. Cloak's stable. Biometrics are spoofing clean. We're ghosts. Good. Keep it that way. Behind him, Mara was tightening the straps on her shoulder rig, checking the explosives pack. Corbin cleaned the lens of his sniper scope. Neither spoke. The tension wasn't fear. It was certainty. One way or another, none of them were coming back. This is where it starts, Senna said from the rear console. She was staring at her homeworld, her real home, expression unreadable. No, Arlen said. This is where it ends. The drop was surgical. They slipped through Kathara's upper atmosphere like a shadow passing behind a flame. Senna's override of the planetary defense net worked. No alarms. No tracers. They landed outside the biosphere complex, Veiltar Nexus, a massive cathedral-like facility rooted in the planet's crust. It pulsed faintly, breathing like a heart. Structures alive, Harlan whispered, adjusting his visor. They've evolved it. All the better, Mara said. Kill the root, kill the species. Arlen led them into the underbrush. The team moved like a single organism, swift, silent, weapons drawn. The jungle was eerily calm. No birds. No wind. Just the faint crackle of alien energy humming beneath their boots. Don't like this, Corbin muttered. Too quiet. It's never quiet here, Senna said. They approached the outer shell of the Nexus, a dome of translucent organic plating. Vines curled around its frame, pulsating with faint light. Entrance is ahead, Senna gestured, hand resting on the biodoor. But I need. A shrill alarm erupted. Lights flared inside the dome. Sirens, high-pitched and musical, ripped through the jungle. You said we were cloaked, Arlen snapped. We were. Harlan shouted, fingers flying across his wrist rig. Something's overridden the encryption. From the Trilene, movement. Shadows shifting fast. Contact, left flank. Corbin barked, snapping up his rifle. Alien figures emerged, Thari security drones, four-legged, gliding fast over the ground, weapons embedded in their shoulders. Engage, Arlen ordered. The firefight was brutal and brief. Mara planted a plasma charge that shredded the first wave. Corbin dropped 3 targets with precision shots to their sensory nodes. Arlen moved like a machine, efficient, lethal, silent. When it ended, smoke rose from smoldering Thari remains. Senna knelt beside one of the bodies, touched the curled talon of its hand. They weren't soldiers, she whispered. These were civil engineers. Maintenance staff. Everyone's a soldier when they enable genocide, Arlen said. Inside the Nexus, the atmosphere changed. The walls were warm. Pulsing. Every breath carried the scent of ionized pollen and decay. They passed through twisting corridors lined with crystal and nerve clusters and humming conduits of raw energy. At the heart of the structure, the biosphere engine, a massive core suspended in a vertical column of light. A planetary regulator. Designed to keep Thari alive. That's our target, Mara said, setting down her payload pack. Once Eclipse bonds with the core, it won't stop. How long? Arlen asked. 20 minutes. Start it. As Mara knelt to prime the device, Senna approached Arlen. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. He turned to her, eyes hollow. Yes. I do. There are innocents here. Entire settlements disconnected from the Ascendancy. Artists. Teachers. Healers. They let Varelia burn. They didn't vote for war, she pleaded. You're condemning children who've never held a weapon. Arlen stepped close. My daughter held a crayon. Do you know what color it was? He asked. She hesitated. Red, he said. Same color as her blood. Senna's voice broke. Then you're no better than Vrex. I'm worse, he said, and walked away. The core began to glow as Mara completed the link. Harlan's countdown synced to the detonation, 19 minutes and 47 seconds. Then the floor shook. A deep tone echoed through the Nexus like a temple bell. Incoming, Corbin muttered. Eyes on high. Mara shouted. Thari guards dropped from the upper balconies, their armor shimmering with reactive camouflage. These were elite. The firefight erupted instantly. Rix was hit first, his shoulder shredded. Mara dragged him to cover. Corbin nailed 2 assailants mid-jump. Senna drew her twin energy blades and cut through a charging Thari with brutal grace. Arlen charged the flank. His blade ignited, slicing through bone and biometal alike. When it ended, they were bleeding. 3 dead Thari. 1 downed operative, Rix, barely conscious. Pull him back, Arlen ordered. He won't make it through another fight, Mara said. He won't have to. 5 minutes and 13 seconds. As they reached the exit corridor, a new voice echoed through the chamber. Commander Raithe. I expected more subtlety. The voice wasn't through speakers. It was direct neural broadcast, Thari tech that hijacked coracle implants. Vrex, Arlen muttered. A hologram flared, High Strategist Vrex Maltor stood tall, imposing, robed in ceremonial war armor. Behind him, a projection of Thari's cities flickered. You slaughter engineers. You poison ecosystems. You think this makes you righteous? I'm not here for righteousness, Arlen replied. I'm here for balance. You condemn 1 billion lives for 100 children. No. I erase a threat. I make sure you never touch another child again. Even if it turns you into what you hate? Vrex asked. Arlen stared coldly. That's the difference between you and me. I know exactly what I've become. Vrex narrowed his eyes. Then finish it. Let the stars watch your fall. The signal cut. 16 seconds. They reached the exit ramp. Senna stopped, breathing hard. You don't have to go through with this. Arlen looked down at the detonator in his palm. We're past that. Please. Stand down, he said. No. She drew her blade, but her hands trembled. Arlen looked at her one last time. Then pushed past her. The team boarded the Wraithfall. Behind them, the core pulsed once, bright as a second sun. From orbit, Cathara Prime shimmered for a moment. Then the biosphere ruptured. The planet began to die. And the stars turned away. Cathara Prime bled light from its core. The Eclipse device had anchored itself deep within the Nexus, its filaments feeding into the planet's living infrastructure like roots into a dying tree. The countdown ticked in Arlen's retinal HUD, 7 minutes and 43 seconds. No alarms now. No resistance. Just the hum of a dying biosphere trying to breathe through poison lungs. Commander Raithe stood at the edge of the control chamber. Around him, the team tended wounds and watched the clock. Corbin was bleeding from a deep gash along his ribs. Mara had taken shrapnel in her calf. Rix's face flickered on the comm, alive, barely. Shield perimeters failing, Rix rasped. Atmosphere's starting to destabilize. You've got minutes before this whole region collapses. Understood, Arlen said. He turned. Senna stood at the far end of the chamber, her back to them. She was staring through the open arch at the horizon, where Cathara's twin moons hung low in a sky turning dark at the edges. Wind had picked up, unnatural and sharp. They're evacuating, she said. Not fast enough, Arlen replied. You still have time to stop this. He didn't answer. She faced him, eyes narrowed. You don't want justice. You want revenge. They killed my children, Arlen said quietly. So you'll kill theirs? Yes. Her voice cracked. Then you're no longer a soldier. You're an executioner. I was never just a soldier. They made for the exit. As the team moved, seismic tremors rolled beneath their feet. The Nexus groaned like something wounded. Vines snapped. Cracks spidered along the crystalline walls. Eclipse was doing its work, corrupting energy flows, destabilizing fault lines. The planet was unraveling. Then a pulse hit them. Not physical. Not sound. A neural signal, direct, precise, unmistakably alien. Arlen staggered, catching himself against the wall. His mind was pulled, violently, into a constructed space of pure thought. Everything went white. He stood in a featureless void. Weightless. Silent. A figure emerged. Vrex Maltor. The Thari high strategist stood tall, draped in flowing armor made of shimmering bone and light. His eyes were deep pits of knowing. Welcome to the meld, he said. A mind for a mind. Arlen stepped forward. You could have faced me on the ground. Why risk the flesh when the mind is more efficient? Vrex replied. You're already here to kill. But do you know why you're killing? Because you murdered our children. Vrex's voice remained calm. And you murdered ours, long before Varelia. You just didn't count them. Colonization dressed in diplomacy. Outposts built on our sacred soil. We offered peace, Arlen snapped. You offered assimilation. The void flickered. Images appeared, Thari cities razed during the First Contact War, human marines standing over alien bodies, settlements scorched clean for resource extraction. Arlen had seen some of them before, classified files buried deep in Dominion archives. We retaliated, Vrex said. Varelia was not a massacre. It was a correction. Arlen's hands clenched into fists. You killed 6,000 civilians. Half were children. My daughters were in a school when you bombed it. Vrex tilted his head. Pain doesn't excuse genocide. No, Arlen said, voice low. But it justifies retribution. He snapped out of the meld. Back in his body. Back in the crumbling chamber. His team was watching him. Senna looked sick. You linked with him, she said. Arlen nodded. He thinks this makes us even. It doesn't. I know. 1 minute and 32 seconds. They reached the exfil corridor. The path back to the Wraithfall had collapsed. Debris blocked their original route. Cracks in the ground glowed with bioenergy from the ruptured core. There's a service shaft beneath the Nexus, Mara shouted over the rumbling. We take it, we get out. Go, Arlen said. What about you? Senna demanded. I finish this. The device is already active. He looked at her. No survivors. Corbin hesitated. I'll stay. No, Arlen said. You all leave. That's an order. Mara gripped his arm. They'll think you did it alone. Good. One by one, they dropped into the shaft, vanishing into the smoke and dust. Only Senna remained. Let me help. You already have. She reached out. Touched his hand. Then die with purpose, she said. And she was gone. 12 seconds. The Nexus groaned. Walls split. Energy arced across surfaces like lightning through bone. Vrex's voice echoed one final time, faint in Arlen's mind. You've condemned an entire species. Arlen knelt before the control altar. He pressed his daughter's ID badge into the final ignition slot. It fit perfectly. No, he whispered. You did. From orbit, Cathara Prime flared. It began in the equator, core collapse triggered by bioenergy overdrive. The forests ignited. The oceans boiled. Cities blinked out like dying stars. The Eclipse Protocol erased Cathara from history. No survivors. No legacy. Only silence. A week later, a black box transmission reached Dominion High Command. One line. They killed our children. We erased their species. Commander Arlen Raithe.